Welcome! I'm Christine Manning with the Wine Education Institute. Thank you for joining me on this advanced tour of the world of sparkling wines. We now shift our focus from winemaking techniques to the world's most critical sparkling wine regions, their unique styles, and the essential legal and labeling terms you need to know. We will journey through the cool continental climates of Champagne, the diverse DOCGs of Italy, and the cool climates of the New World, uncovering how geography and law define our final product. These regions hold such prestige. In our benchmark Champagne area, around 400 new legal cases are opened each year to protect its appellation and winemaking practice. This commitment to legal production underscores the sheer stature of this style, and it's where we will begin our global tour. Let's dive in to the bubbly world of sparkling wines. Let's begin our tour in France, the benchmark of sparkling wines. Champagne is defined by its cool continental climate and chalky soils, which provides excellent drainage and water retention. The northerly latitude makes Champagne France's northernmost wine region, and with that comes threat of spring and autumn frosts, winter freezes, and rainy or cloudy weather during the growing season. Continentality increases the risk of extreme weather events like hail in the summers. This climate will dictate our grape growing and winemaking styles. The big three grapes grown here are Chardonnay, known for citrus and floral aromas with high acidity, Pinot Noir, which gives structure, breadfruit, and ageability, and Pinot Meunier, that leads to fruit and lift for early drinking styles. Other varieties are also allowed in Champagne, but these are the three to know. The soil and the landscape changes throughout Champagne, making different regions important for different grapes and styles. Beginning in the northernmost section, south of France, is the Montagne de France, which is dominated by Meunier, as it is prized here for its late budding, which helps minimize the risk of frost. Just to the west and the south is the Vallée de la Marne. Côte de Blanc, as the name suggests, focuses on Chardonnay production, as does the further southern region, Côte de Sézanne. Côte de Bar's most planted variety is Pinot Noir. In all of these regions, since we are much further north than Burgundy, grapes will be higher in acid and have more green fruit and citrus aromas. Next, let's look at Champagne making specifics. Grapes must be hand-picked and pressed as whole bunches. This is critical because it ensures gentle extraction, which is the only way to make a white wine from black grapes like Pinot Noir and Meunier without staining the juice. Fractional pressing in segments is practiced in different presses as they result in different juice styles. The first press, which is capped at 2,050 liters, is called the cuvée. This is the purest juice with the highest acidity and finesse and will be used in the finest champagnes. The second press and remaining juice is the taille, or the tail. The taille is richer in pigment and phenolics, and it can add fruitiness to a blend. And just as a heads up, you might also hear that term cuvée apply to blended base wines as well. They mean both things. Once we have our juice, winemakers need to make some stylistic choices during primary fermentation. While most producers use temperature-controlled stainless steel to preserve fresh fruit, some houses will ferment in oak barrels to add texture and mouthfeel. They also will have to decide on malolactic conversion. Some producers encourage mallow to soften acidity and stabilize the wine, while others will block it completely. Finally, because the weather in Champagne varies so widely from year to year, blending is a necessity, not just a stylistic choice. Large houses rely heavily on reserve wines stored from previous vintages, with the current harvest to ensure that their non-vintage release tastes the same year after year, regardless of weather conditions. Within Champagne, aging periods are legally defined. Non-vintage blends grapes from different varieties and requires 15 months of aging, 12 of which have to be on the lees. Vintage wines, when all grapes are harvested from the same year, must rest longer for a minimum of 36 months. Some houses will much rest longer than this. And Prestige Cuvée represents the finest wine in a producer's range. We can also see our Blanc de Blanc, Blanc de Noir, and Rosé champagnes, as well as those sweetening scales from Brut Nature up to Doux on our champagne labels. Still in France, but outside of Champagne, we have Crémants, such as Crémant d'Alsace, de Bourgogne, de Loire. You get the point. These will use traditional methods and will spend at least 9 months on their lees. These regions will typically use the grapes that are being grown for their still varieties, for example, Chenin Blancs from the Loire Valley. Saumur makes bubbles from Chardonnay and Cabernet Franc as well. And in Vouvray, sparkling Chenin actually surpasses still Chenin in production. Alsace uses grapes for still production, with the exception of Muscat and Gewürztraminer, which are only allowed in still styles. Cava is a unique DO because it covers non-contiguous regions, though most production is in Catalonia. Varieties used are Macabeo, Torello, and Parellada. Cava is a traditional method wine, generally lower in acid than Champagne, with more subtle yeast notes due to the required 9 months of aging. Italy gives us Prosecco, primarily from the Veneto region using the Glera grape and the tank method. Small amounts of Pinot Noir are also allowed to make Rosé Prosecco. Proseccos are prized for refreshing approachability, focusing on fruit, often with an off-dry level of sweetness. This is achieved through interrupted fermentation and filtering off yeast. While most Italians will tell you that wine is meant for food, Prosecco is a very welcome exception to this rule. For higher quality Proseccos, look for Conegliano-Valdobbiadene, which are planted on limestone slopes, allowing these wines to develop richness. Rive and Cartizze are other labeling terms that indicate a higher quality. We also get Moscato d'Asti from Piedmont, our classic sweet, low alcohol, lightly sparkling wine made via the Asti method. Germany wins the award for the highest consumption of sparkling wine per capita. Sekt is the general term, most of which will be made from the tank method with grapes grown in other EU countries. But Deutscher Sekt means 100% of German grapes were used, and best styles will come from Riesling grapes grown in our quality wine regions like the Mosel. In the New World, the focus is on finding the coolest sites to mimic the Champagne profile. In the USA, California dominates, especially in the fog-cooled Los Carneros and the cool Anderson Valley, using Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Elegant examples can be found with aromas from extended lees aging. Inexpensive versions can also be found coming from the Central Valley using tank or carbonation methods. In South Africa, grapes come from the Western Cape on southern hillsides. Remember that here, that would make things cooler. The term Cap Classique indicates a wine made via traditional method, aged on the lees for 12 months. For sparkling wines from Australia, look to the high altitude Adelaide Hills, maritime Yarra Valley, and very cool Tasmania. These will be made in varying styles, and complex, high-quality traditional method sparkling wines definitely can be had. Large volumes of inexpensive wine is also made via tank and carbonation methods. They will also produce unique sparklers from Shiraz, Merlot, and Cab Sauv. New Zealand's more southerly location allows grapes to retain acidity and keep bright fruit flavors made into high-quality traditional method examples. Marlborough is the volume leader. Let's quickly recap the essentials we've covered. We began with the undisputed benchmark, Champagne. Remember, Champagne is defined by its cool continental climate, chalky soils, and classic trio of grapes, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Meunier, and it will make sparkling wines from the traditional method. Moving beyond Champagne, we saw traditional method is used across the world, but with its own regional flair, including French Crémants, Spanish Cavas, and South African Cap Classiques. Not all great sparkling wines rely on the traditional method. Italy showcased the versatility of the tank method with Prosecco from the Veneto. And we can't forget about those low alcohol sparklers, Asti from Piedmont. Finally, in the New World, the common thread is the pursuit of cool climate sites, from California's Los Carneros and Anderson Valleys to Australia's high altitude hills and cool Tasmania, and to New Zealand. These regions successfully emulate the quality and complexity of Champagne while also creating their own unique styles. Keep those key regions, methods, and terms in mind as you prepare for your exam. Good luck with your studies. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers!